we're off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session, Retool Your Peer-to-Peer Fundraising Events for the Virtual World. We submitted this session idea a while ago, but it's still very pertinent. There was a lot of lessons learned in the last year and a half, and while I'm sure we're all more than eager to put all of that behind us and get back to physical events, we're very much looking forward to taking the best practices and the great advancements and the creative thinking that it took to get through the last year and a half, right? So regardless if you're doing virtual campaigns or even if you're returning hopefully back to physical events, I think there's gonna be some great key takeaways here. I'm gonna start it off and share some general thoughts, and then we have a couple of terrific case studies with a few presenters, co-panelists that I'm very proud to be co-presenting with today, and I'm gonna allow them, and I start off, I'm Mark Becker, founding partner of Cathexis Partners. We've been doing this for about 13 years now. We help organizations make the most out of their online fundraising and advocacy campaigns, both technically helping set it up, design, look and feel, strategy, all of that. And we're going to be sharing the stage and most of the time handing off to our clients, a couple of our clients, to show some examples of what they did and what they're looking to do moving forward. So Danielle, you want to kick it off and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Mark. I'm Danielle Ullman and I'm the director for Stater Brothers Charities.
Hi, and I'm Tracy and I'm the Believe Walk director for Stater Brothers Charities.
And finally, I'm Brandon Burns, Highmark Walk for Healthy Community Director.
So yeah, I got a good couple of cross section of different types of campaigns, and they're going to share their case studies in a moment. But let me go ahead and cover some high level things regarding just what the best part of last year I think was, as far as there was a lot of opportunity here. I mean, it was a horrible year, right? But there was the opportunity for people to rethink and think outside the box and all those other catchphrases to getting things done, right, in this new environment. So the best takeaway out of all of this, if I had to sum it up, would be, make virtual campaigns and your online environment more experiential. Make it people feel the same emotions that they have when doing this in person, and provide them opportunities to share and interact with each other in a variety of ways, even if they're not in person, right? And some different ways of doing that include user-generated content and content aggregators. There's a couple of examples here, Juicer and Curator. Those are a couple of start out as free plans and then go up from there. There's obviously a lot of different options there, but consider putting something like this on your campaign homepage to, along with a hashtag or some way to track back to the campaign, so that folks can post and share their stories, their pictures, their images, their videos, and these aggregators allow it to automatically kind of be filtered up, captured, and shared on your website. Really great way to take the conversation beyond just you, the organization, speaking at or to participants and potential participants and donors, and really allowing it to be more of a conversation and get everybody involved. Another great example is using things like Gather Voices or Seen It, where you basically their video editing tools and aggregating tools. So Gather Voices, for example, I really like this platform and the service. You basically tee up a question and ask people to record really easily using their phone or desktop or whatever camera device they have. You tee up a question like introduce themselves and why they're involved with your campaign, and they post a short video, and then you can either share those one-offs or you can actually set up a poster board and have them all displayed so you can, people can view those and get a sense of who else is involved with the campaign and why they're doing it. And then they can put those on their personal pages, et cetera, so that they can really, share and communicate and get other people excited about, fundraising and supporting your campaign. There's also things like fitness apps, right? Strava, Fitbit, Map My Fitness, more popular than ever if you're doing some kind of a physical campaign, and you're not, even if you're not in one location, or even if you are in one location, you can basically set up different routes, or have people track their activity, and have post to their fundraising pages as well. There's actually different platforms. Here's a few of them: Blackbaud, peer-to-peer fundraising, Fundraising, Run Sign Up. Those are just a few of the ones that peer-to-peer fundraising platforms that actually integrate pretty seamlessly with Strava or some of these other tools. Or I shared the links here for how to just embed code. So like if you have a Strava group, for example, that you want to set up for a campaign, you can have people join that and put the Strava group followings in your campaign homepage or subpage, or even maybe a team page, for example, and make it really easy for people to see how they're advancing on their interactions, running a 5K, training for a marathon, whatever it might be, right? So I have a screenshot here of, this is using Fundraising. This is the participants page where it goes beyond just the, funds raised. It shows how much, how far his progress is. In this case, Adam's progress is towards 50 kilometers. So far, he's made it 20 kilometers, and that's automatically tracked using, I think it was Strava in this case. And if you go, and you also see like the achievement badges, gamification is always a huge thing, right? It shows exactly, what he's done, how far he's made on his progress, little badges to shout out not just fundraising, but also how he's doing on his fitness goal. So, and then on the back end, looking at the participants center, so that they can update they can update their personal page, they can upload their picture, and then they can also connect the preferred fitness app. You see that on the lower left-hand side, and then furthermore on the right-hand side, it shows how it's integrated with Strava, and they can even manually enter different runs or activity types as well. So it's all really built into the system. It makes it really easy for a participant to share not just fundraising progress, but physical advancements as well. So some of this is really built in and pre-baked into the campaigns and the platforms. And I'll say that more and more of the platforms are including these types of functionality, and I think the last year has really encouraged organizations and the platforms to really up their game and even do more. So really exciting stuff. Live stream fundraising is another example, right? St. Jude's Play Life and Games Done Quick for charities are a couple of examples. Tiltify was the first peer-to-peer fundraising platform in this arena. Since then, Donor Drive, Fundraise, I think Fundraising does it as well. Give Butter, Blackbaud peer-to-peer fundraising, just to name a few, also do live stream fundraising, where you can have somebody live streaming a video, playing video games, or maybe it's performing some art, musical, whatever it might be, and do fundraising while that is live streaming. And really one of the key features of that is it allows people to donate while still watching the activity, so they don't have to go off to another page. It's all done within the framework of that window, so you don't have to leave that environment. So again, just different ways to entice people to really get involved and make them feel like they're not just in their living rooms all alone or what have you, right? And finally, the last thing I wanted to mention was virtual event bags. These examples and these links I've shared here are actually with Active Network. But there's a lot of things you can do yourself. If you want to just have a production version and have it all prepackaged, Active Network does a great job with that, but nothing's saying you can't do it yourself. And the whole theory is here, thinking through, okay, if we're doing a virtual campaign, how do we get swag or giveaways or sponsor info out to our participants? And, just thinking through different options there. And if you have something physically you need to fulfill, based on different fundraising goals, et cetera. Definitely, you can look at options like this, or Halo is another organization platform that They do a lot of fulfillment of products for incentive gifts. So there's a lot of options there. Never hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. But I just wanted to cover a few things before I actually hand it off to Danielle and go into our first case study. So definitely more coming here, but Danielle, off to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for all that great information and great resources. Thank you for sharing. Again, I'm the director for Stater Brothers Charities, and Stater Brothers Charities is a nonprofit organization that serves as the charitable arm for Stater Brothers Markets, the largest privately owned supermarket chain in Southern California, currently operating 170 store locations. But again, it's an honor and privilege to be with you today to provide some insight into our largest fundraising event of the year, the Believe Walk. My colleague and I look forward to sharing some of our challenges, strategies, and lessons learned while we transitioned our in-person event into an online virtual fundraising experience. So before we dive in, just want to give a quick overview of the Believe Walk. The Believe Walk is a 5K cancer walk that brings the community together to celebrate survivors, support those living with cancer, and honor those we've lost. The first Believe Walk was held in 2008 with just under 2,000 participants and has grown to 10,000 participants in 2019, which was our last in-person event.
Oh, Danielle, I think you're muted. Sorry about that.
There we go. Ooh, sorry about that. Technology, the joy of virtual. Sorry about that. Okay. So the Believe Walk supports the fight against all types of cancer, and we believe that no one should fight cancer alone. To date, the Believe Walk has donated over $5.6 million to local cancer fighting organizations throughout Southern California. And these funds ensure that cancer patients and their families have access to affordable, quality care throughout their cancer journey. Now, I'd hate to do it, but let's rewind to 2020, the infamous 2020. Although the pandemic had canceled many events and social gatherings, our mission was not canceled. We knew that cancer patients were going to need our help now more than ever, and we could not abandon them in their time of need. And I really quickly just wanted to point out that photo that I'm sharing currently. That was actually a photo of Letitia. She was a spouse of one of our Stater Brothers employees. She had just gone through some of her last cancer treatment. And this photo was taken in 2019. And as you could see, she's wearing a face covering. So kind of just before all the craziness started. But I think that really just speaks volume to cancer patients. You know, they're very high risk, vulnerable. And with that in mind, that really was the driving factor to transition our in-person event into a virtual experience. We knew that we wanted to keep them safe, and we also wanted to support cancer patients. So that was really just on top of mind for our event. Now, of course, navigating this virtual landscape understandably came with some trepidation. When our team came together, we had no idea what to expect, where to start, what to plan for. We were literally deer in the headlights. So as we started to plan, we really wanted to look through the lens of our supporters. And we knew that we would need to meet them where they were at, and that was obviously in the digital space. But with that came some concerns and challenges. You know, we had to consider donor virtual fatigue, donor retention, donor acquisition, and the donor's capacity to give. So really just due to the impact of the pandemic, you know, were supporters, were they going to be tired of virtual events? Were they sick of that already? And then also a lot of people were struggling financially due to job loss and other hardships. So we really we couldn't anticipate what our donors were going to be able to do and if they were even going to be able to continue their support. So as we began to strategize, we kind of had that aha moment. We realized we really didn't need to reinvent the wheel. The foundation and framework was already in place, and we were confident that we could execute a successful virtual event by adapting our strategies through effective modifications. So with these things on top of mind, our goal was to make the event as simple as possible for our participants. But most importantly, we wanted to keep the fun in fundraising. So our overall strategy was to enhance our digital presence within 3 focus areas. And that was peer-to-peer fundraising, donor engagement, and donor stewardship. So what did that look like and how did we do it? Well, like most of you, I'm sure we've been hearing this a lot lately. Mark mentioned it. We had to get creative and think outside of the box. And there's a motto that I love to live by, and that is there's got to be an easier way. Find ways to make it easier on yourself and your team. Seek out the tools and resources that can help guide you through it. Now, in order to enhance our digital presence, we focused on leveraging our digital assets. And we literally performed a complete inventory of all of our digital assets, from our website to social media to email, you name it. I mean, we looked at every aspect. My screen's not, there we go. Sorry about that. So as a result, we invested much of our time and resources in new technology. So what I'm sharing with you right now is a bird's eye view of the various technologies and tools that we use to enhance our virtual experience. So I'll start with Canva. This was a graphic design platform used to create social media graphics and other visual content. And if you haven't used Canva, I would highly recommend it. It's amazing. You'll love it. It'll be your new best friend, I promise. Give it a try. We also managed our contests and challenges on WooBox. And again, mentioning the virtual event bags, we did add a virtual goodie bag as an added benefit to our sponsors and to engage our participants. We incorporated Strava, the activity tracker for our active participants, and to introduce a new 5K challenge to the event. And we utilized Constant Contact to create a fresh new look to our email campaign. And then to live stream our event on day of, we used Facebook Live, Vimeo, and YouTube. So as you can see, we were managing over 10 different platforms at one time. And like many of you, I'm sure you could all relate, this was all new to us. We had a lot to learn in a very short period of time. And yes, it can be overwhelming, frustrating, intimidating. I probably even grew a couple more gray hairs from it. But we didn't give up, and we just pushed through, and we were patient, and we just stayed the course. We knew we would have to remain steadfast in our mission, and we just went for it. And of course, there's some pain points along the way, but we learned through trial and error. We discovered what worked well and what didn't work so well. And keep in mind, there's no right or wrong here. It's not a one size fits all. Every organization and every event is different. Just because it worked for us, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So as an organization, you just really need to determine and identify the tools that will best fit your needs. So I would say in the end, we were able to leverage our challenges as an opportunity to launch a complete digital transformation. And, overall, it was a success. So on that, I'd like to leave you with a few key takeaways to keep in mind as you navigate the digital space today and beyond. My slide's not working again. There we go. So as fundraisers, how do we succeed in the virtual world? Well, first, don't reinvent the wheel. Again, the foundation, it's already in place. Don't put all of your time and energy into recreating a brand new event. Just take what works and adapt and modify as needed. And again, be confident, you got this. You know, this isn't your first rodeo. While the virtual experience may be new, the fundraising component is not. Just let your experience and skill sets guide you. And again, I'm sure this sounds like a broken record. I'm sure we've heard this throughout 2020, but just get creative and think outside of the box, and have fun with it. You know, heck, try something that you've never would have tried before. This really is your chance to try something new and get out of your comfort zone. And, you know, who knows, it may result in a positive outcome. And again, my favorite motto, there's got to be an easier way. Again, work smarter, not harder. Look for opportunities to simplify and improve. Seek out the tools and resources that will help you. And finally, patience is power. I came across a quote the other day and it read, "Have patience. All things are difficult before they become easy." Again, just don't give up. Be patient, stay the course, and I promise you will get through it. So I'll go ahead and end on that. I'll hand it off to my colleague Tracy for a deeper dive into our execution and lessons learned. Again, thank you for your time today. Wishing you all continued success in your fundraising endeavors. Thank you. Take it away, Tracy.
Hi, thanks, Danielle. As mentioned, we had some concerns, but we wanted to really turn our challenges into opportunities for event growth. A virtual event was going to be new to us, but we were confident that we could adapt and find strategies that would help us really maximize our fundraising efforts. So today we're going to share 4 strategies with you that helped us retool our fundraising event. And we'll talk a little bit about our successes and our lessons learned. I can't advance the screen. Okay, so having completed a full inventory of our digital assets, we identified some areas where we could improve. And then we also focused on some of the things that we could expand. So we improved our communication and our strategy to really reach out to people. So we expanded our touch points. There we go. Sorry about that. Virtual, right? So we really did want to highlight our survivor stories, and we provided information on the impact of a donation because donors want to know where their money's going and who they're helping. So we created some engaging activities to keep people engaged and connected. Believe it or not, we actually found a silver lining in going virtual. While our in-person event really focused on one location, we now had a broader audience that we could expand to as potential donors. So we wanted to simplify our event in every way. With many events having gone virtual, we really had to consider virtual fatigue. So we simplified event participation, including registration and donation. We realized we had to streamline our peer-to-peer fundraising. So we found a new fundraising platform called Mobile Cause. We chose this platform because the easy user interface. some of the features that we really loved was the 1-2-click registration and donation. Intuitive fundraising tools like intuitive search and crowdfunding. Social media share, we love this. Participants had an easy way to share their fundraising page and solicit donations. Text to donate, another simple way to ask for support and donations. And by prioritizing the user experience, we kept participants engaged. We wanted to meet people where they were at using the tools that they were familiar with. Refresh messaging and communication. We began by modifying our messaging while never losing sight of the purpose and the mission of the Believe Walk. We incorporated new consistent messaging, new engaging images, and a new delivery solution. And since our emails were stagnant and lacking, we quickly transitioned to a new email solution, Constant Contact. The benefit from this change, the platform was easy to use with customizable templates, simple drop, drag, schedule, and send. We produced clean and vibrant emails. And now we could segment our audience. So we could send emails to participants, donors, sponsors, you name it, we could segment that out. This simple change resulted in the increase in our open and click rate. Using Canva, we revamped our social media and produced more vibrant and animated posts. We used text messaging through mobile calls and sent event updates, key information about event activities, all delivered to the palm of their hand. What really comes down to is keeping participants engaged and informed. And through these new communication tools, we were able to acquire, retain, and steward our donors. Donor engagement, you know, is key to success. We connected with our donors and participants by creating fun activities, contests, and challenges that included some really great prizes. We incorporated a 5K challenge through Strava. It was an innovative and fun way for participants to get engaged and excited for the day of the event. Participants who completed this challenge had a chance to win a $250 grocery gift card. We enhanced our participation recognition strategy by including fundraising milestones linked to really higher end and incentive gifts, such as a North Face backpack and JBL speaker. We also highlighted our teams and our top fundraisers on social media and during our event program. Really create fun, easy ways for people to stay engaged. As you can see, we even had something for our pet lovers. And we want to share some of our successes and lessons learned. We expanded our reach. And although registration was down, overall fundraising was up. Our net revenue, it was higher due to the decrease in event expenses. So we learned a lot from this. But some of the things that we took away was adapt, adapt, adapt. You have to stay flexible. You have to, go with the flow, learn and adapt. And then take inventory of your digital assets. So remember, there are many opportunities out there for you to, find new ways to enhance your digital presence. Search them out, look for them. It really does make a difference. And then stay connected with your supporters. And finally, not every good idea is going to be successful. As we mentioned before, the virtual goodie bag, it was a complete bust for us, but that doesn't mean it won't work for your event. With that, we want to say thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Tracy. I'll take it from here. Once again, my name is Brandon Burns, and I am the Senior Community Affairs Analyst and Highmark Walk Director on the Highmark Walk for Healthy Community event. So with this event, what we've had to do, kind of give you a little bit of a historical background on the event. This overall event began back in 2003 with just 8 health and human service nonprofits here in the Pittsburgh area. As you guys can imagine, and as my cohorts, said earlier, what we wanted to really do is have that community aspect and really get back to our organizations within our community. Here at Highmark, which is one of our larger healthcare organizations here on the East Coast, is we wanted to create an event to help possibly divert being asked for sponsorship for many walk events around our enterprise footprint, which includes Pennsylvania, Delaware, and West Virginia. So as part of our event, we decided that we would actually underwrite as a company 100% of the cost of the event. So when we look at logistics, whether that be on-site or any of the software that provides, or any of the incentives by way of t-shirts, tents, permits, you name it, we wanted to take on that cost for our nonprofits. And as we all know, that is a big expenditure when we look at putting on an event such as this. But we really wanted to focus in on the nonprofits receiving 100% of the funds that they raise through the event go directly back to their missions. With our event, we just have a couple quick qualifiers. Basically, on this side, you have to be a 501c3, as well as be your focus in the health and human service fields. Now, obviously, this can tie into a lot of different aspects, especially in the disease causes, but then also opens us up to causes that might be near and dear to other people's hearts, like serving the homeless, serving pets, different things like that. And another caveat with our event is that organizations that want to participate with us cannot host a walk of their own in one of our service areas that we provide the walk event. Overall, with this event, we had raised about $16.3 million through the event's history. And as you can see there on the very, very bottom, we do spread our walks amongst right now a 2-state region with holding 7 different events in our larger markets of Pittsburgh, Erie, our Altoona area, Harrisburg, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and Allentown, and then into our Wilmington, Delaware market as well. And what the great part about this event is, as we look forward, is as we look to expand our footprint here at Highmark, we are potentially looking at other events in Buffalo and Albany and into our West Virginia market. As you guys can see here on this slide, these were some of our photos from our 2019 event. This was the last time we were able to all meet in person from this perspective. And as we look at these pictures, our events across the state of Pennsylvania and into Delaware attracted about 15,000 people for the overarching perspective, and we raised about $1.5 million that went back to all of our participating organizations. As we know, as we approached into 2020, we were able to have to stop our campaign kind of midway through just due to the ongoing COVID pandemic. As we looked at our registration process, we were actually already a month and a half into our campaign when all the restrictions and the pandemic really hit. So as we look at our setup of our event, what we were able to do, and this is one of the great features of our event in particular, is that we were able to pivot within a day-and-a-half period because of our initial setup with the event. As I mentioned before, we have different organizations that are participating. So with this year's event, we have 250 organizations participating through the event. But what we look to do as part of our platform is they're underneath all one umbrella. Each organization then is provided one of their own websites and a microsite underneath the Highmark Walk umbrella. So as you guys can see here on this page, each organization is then able to really give the expertise and to show what they're looking to do and what is behind their mission. What the great part about each one of these websites is, as you can see there, we're able to provide their logo. We're able to provide a mission statement and really an about section then as well. So when each one of these organizations are out looking to secure those funds for their mission, they can drive them directly to each one of their microsites, which are tied directly to the organization's bank account. So from my perspective as the overall director, I do not have to worry about dividing up any sort of funds, as each one of the respective organizations are able to manage that with up to 3 event managers, which are directly tied back to the organizations themselves. As we looked at the switch from in person to going all virtual here in 2020, obviously, we decided as a company to switch to that all virtual event to comply with all the local CDC guidelines and all the local state restrictions. As we looked at the walkers themselves, knowing that we couldn't be in person again, we encouraged all of our walkers to walk, but really to do it on their own terms, all while staying safe. Whether that be they were walking around their neighborhood, whether they were walking around a trail or a park, or even on a treadmill, we encourage all of our walkers throughout our campaign to really look and stay safe while getting that physical activity, and then share that with us on our social media pages, in particular on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Normally, as we looked at this campaign, we polled our nonprofit agencies and asked, when would they like our campaign to end? Usually when we asked that question, we always had a June 30th end date for a lot of our nonprofits. They worked on a fiscal year that ran from July 1 to June 30. So what we did as part of this campaign is we really looked at doing an extension of that potential campaign to give our organizations a little bit more time in order to fundraise, as we kind of looked at that massive change there that we had back in March of 2020. With that as well, what we did, we obviously then had, our raffle prizes and chances. We incentivized our walkers last year to help them take those actionable steps and really raise funds for their respective organizations. So as they progressed, anybody that raised $50 or more through the event was entered into our great litany of raffle chances for some great prizes that we then mailed out in that digital aspect. So we did a lot of gift cards to make it easier on both myself, but then also the walkers that won it to be able to accept those prizes. With that as well is we also lowered our t-shirt incentive down to $15 last year. This actually really looked to incentivize our walkers to really participate and take that minimal step. The thought process behind this was with everything kind of going on with a lot of individuals, losing jobs, family situations changing on that minute-to-minute basis, we wanted to make sure that we were able to really put a threshold out there that was achievable for all of our donors, no matter what situation you were potentially in, to still participate. And then from our perspective, what we really looked to do with each one of our organizations was I went back then in the months of March and April and did one-on-one coaching sessions with our event managers to really help them to reevaluate some of their plans on how they were going to look to fundraise. On this screen you guys can see here is these are a lot of the best practice peer-to-peer perspectives. But as we looked at, really coaching up our organizations that are part of the event, we really wanted to focus in on saying, hey, how can you potentially take one of these strategies here in the next couple of months, since we are in a virtual world, and really activate them to keep your walkers and your organization going. Obviously, in our perspective, recruiting the teams and walkers was a big piece of this, as well as looking at those different aspects of how can they really attack fundraising this year, but in that virtual sense. So we really did a big push on the online fundraising and really ramping up the templated emails that we were able to use through the Blackbaud Team Raiser system. But then also as well, do we have any contests that we could potentially do? Taking those actionable steps throughout the entire campaign was a huge piece to make sure that our walkers are really looking at those ways that they can be incentivized to take those steps to send emails, share on Twitter, or anything of the sort. Also then really activating, those individuals and those volunteers that are walkers or donors. I preach to all of our organizations, getting self-donors is the biggest piece to make sure that, if you are asking someone to do something, make sure that you've already done it yourself. With their boards then as well, can they challenge their boards to set a goal in a give and or get scenario to where they can really dive into raising funds from a small amount of people. But then on the far right there, the two biggest pieces as we remember back into 2020 is from a perspective of the SDOH. We all saw in the news the long lines in the food banks. Many people, lost their jobs, lost their employment, were forced out of potential homes. How did their programs that they were doing on that day-to-day basis tie into SDOH? As well as, as we looked at, potentially coming out of the pandemic here in 2021, one of the big coaching pieces that we also had was, thinking of their programs. How do we want to make sure that as the pandemic ends, that each one of our organizations had programming ready to go as soon as the pandemic ended and we got back to some sort of normalcy, that we could really hit the ground running with a lot of their programs? As we looked at this switch, as I mentioned before, normally our event ranges about 1.4 to 1.5 raised each year. We did see a small decrease in fundraising, but we were actually able to raise just under $1 million for our 251 organizations that participated there in 2020. Our event then did win the Best Virtual Fundraiser Award by our local paper here in the Pittsburgh area then as well. So as we look forward, obviously, as we looked at the 2021 event, when we initially did the planning in late 2020, early 2021, the pandemic was still going, strong. So we made the decision once again to really tie in that virtual aspect as well, kind of moving through the overall perspective. So as you look at here, across our 7 events, we are now supporting about 250 organizations and really looking to raise about 1.1 million for these organizations that will go directly back, and 100% of the proceeds will go back to their organizations. So as we look at the event this year, obviously, as we are potentially speaking here today, our campaign is in full swing, which will conclude here as the conference begins in July. But from that perspective, we're well on our way to achieving this goal. I'm thankful here to say today. But from this perspective, one of the biggest things, and as we've kind of looked at the virtual aspect and retooling our event, was for our organizations to really do a deep dive in not only what tools they were using, whether that be social media, the email system that was already available to them, but then also doing a deep dive into a lot of what they were doing on the event side of things, or how they were activating their walkers and or fundraisers. So with that, I will throw it back to Mark on this side of things.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for that, Brandon, and everybody. Tracy and Danielle, really appreciate all of that insight. Let me start my video back up and ask the other panelists to do the same. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. There's a lot of information, a lot of different examples and a couple different kind of campaigns to hopefully get you thinking about how you're doing things. Would love to hear your questions now, and also any successes or challenges that you'd like to share. Definitely looking forward to that chat. So take it away. All right. Let's see. Oh.